The DOJ, really, the way I look at it, a victory for both the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. Let's talk about that in a second. But first, tell me about the settlement in a nutshell.
Well, the settlement is pretty straightforward. What it allows is the inventor of this 3D printing technology, a guy named Cody Wilson, to actually post online the information that he had in the first place. He was forced really to pull down that information after it had been posted, I think, only for about a week, about 5 years ago. He contested that. The Second Amendment Foundation got mixed up in the case, brought a lawsuit against then the Obama administration. And now, 5 years later, we've reached a settlement that does allow this material to be posted online. I think you're right. It's a great victory for the First Amendment, for sure.
But so when we talk about the First Amendment, this is about the freedom to be able to communicate with fellow Americans. And, of course, the Obama administration probably looked at it as a potential terrorist act of some kind, some sort of right-wing conspiracy, domestic terrorist conspiring with other so-called domestic terrorists. But really, in reality, this is about the First Amendment. Second Amendment, yes, we'll get to that in a second. But the First Amendment, and this is communicating with fellow Americans about advancing your Second Amendment rights.
Well, yeah, I'm a journalist by trade. That's what I've done for the last 45 years. You're a broadcast journalist. I mean, we're both in the same boat. We live thanks to the First Amendment. That's what we do. And I think after having read the settlement agreement, I was kind of amused that some people out there declare this, oh, this is a terrible thing. These gun nuts are going to be out running around doing all this stuff. They don't seem to understand that what this case really has done is make it possible for everybody to exercise their First Amendment rights just a little bit more. And, there's really nothing wrong with that.
And this 3D printed gun, this is the Liberator pistol, or some sort of variation of what's called the Liberator pistol. And essentially, it's a 3D printer. You can get some sort of diagrams and plans to input to the 3D print. I don't know exactly. I'm just kind of guessing here. You fill in the blanks. And then you print the parts and make the gun, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a technology that I honestly don't understand. I've tried to because I've written about it. But Cody Wilson, I've talked to him a couple of times, interviewed him, 2 or 3 times, and he's really an incredibly intelligent guy. He came up with this. I would have never thought of this probably as long as I lived, but because we have the technology now, it is possible for somebody to actually manufacture at least parts of a firearm to make a functional firearm. And all he wants to do is publish the information online. I don't think he's interested in actually making a bunch of guns by himself. He just wants that information out there.
Seems like when you look at it through the Second Amendment prism, this is important to the home build movement in this country. And if folks aren't familiar with that, that is, a lot of times there are home build parties that people get together and they have the parts to build different kinds of firearms. But this is another component to the home build. But if you look at it from a political perspective, it seems as though, David, that this is also a huge loss to the anti-gun lobby at the same time, because they wanted nothing more than this edict to continue.
Well, yeah, initially when word of this started leaking out, you would have thought the Pope died. I mean, it was just the reaction was nothing short of the Titanic hitting an iceberg. Every kind of imaginable scenario, horror scenario, has been kicked around because of this. It's really a situation where if somebody wants to be a home gunsmith, as you mentioned, they build a firearm at home. When I was a kid, the guy living across the alley from me built a couple of hunting rifles for himself. Really, this is not that much far removed from that, because it enables somebody who wants to build his own firearm to do that.
And, this anti-gun crowd will say, as a result of this agreement, this settlement, that bad guys will be able to download this information and bad guys will be able to create guns and harm good people. But I believe that the best response to that is something like, well, for every bad guy there is out there, there may be 100 or 1,000 good guys who will be able to download the same material and hold those bad guys at bay.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.